I woke up to a sound that just didn't belong out here. Wasn't bees. Wasn't the neighbor firing up his old John Deere. Wasn't even the rumble of a distant thunderstorm. It was this high-pitched, electrical hum coming from the middle of my own field. You ever have one of those moments where your brain just refuses to process what your eyes are seeing? Yeah, that was me, standing in my boxers and muddy boots, mug of coffee clutched in my hand, staring at three giant metal towers, silver, gleaming, red lights blinking through the morning mist, right there where I'd planted hay just a week earlier. For a split second, I actually thought, well, I guess the aliens finally made it to rural America. But no, it was way dumber than that. That's when she showed up. Karen, the HOA president. The self-crowned empress of the clipboard brigade. She marched right up to my fence like she owned the sunrise, waving like we were buddies, her sunglasses reflecting back my disbelief. We're improving network access for the neighborhood. You're welcome, she hollered, like she'd just delivered a casserole instead of a three-headed monstrosity on my land. I almost choked on my coffee right then and there. See, this wasn't HOA property. It was my field, my name on the deed, my sweat in the soil, my damn hay now flattened under steel and solar panels and God knows what else. I asked her who'd given permission. She just smiled and said, "Oh, we assumed you'd agree." Assumed. There's a word that'll start a fight faster than spilled beer at a country bar. By the time I'd thrown on jeans and stormed out, I realized it wasn't just one tower. They'd planted three. Big, ugly, humming towers with cables running under my fence, right beside the irrigation. I'd spent all spring digging out. Karen claimed it was temporary, some community enhancement initiative. You ever hear someone say something so smug you want to frame it just so you never forget? That was her voice right then. I asked for permits. She had none. I asked who paid. She said HOA funds. I asked when they'd leave. She just grinned. It's for the greater good. That was it. The moment neighborly tolerance died. Most folks would call a lawyer. Me? I called Tony. He's a welder, and he owed me a favor for that irrigation pump I fixed last July. He rolled up chewing an egg sandwich, took one look at those towers, and just whistled. You know what you got now, right? You're sitting on infrastructure. Start charging rent. Make it so expensive they think twice next time. I laughed, thought he was joking, but the more I chewed on it, the sweeter it tasted. If Karen wanted to turn my field into a tech park, fine, I'd treat her like a tenant. But I wasn't gonna go. Nuclear first. I went to City Hall, checked the zoning. Turns out, yeah, my land's agricultural, not subject to the HOA's whims. Clerk even laughed when I told him what they'd done. If they didn't get your signature, they're trespassing. That's it. He said I could sue or send an invoice. Oh, now that's a country solution. So that night, I drafted up the prettiest invoice you ever saw. Wireless infrastructure hosting fee, $250 per tower per hour. Due on receipt. I printed it, put it in a frame, and walked it over to the HOA office like it was my grandmother's pie at the state fair. Karen saw it, started laughing, right up until I handed her a copy of the zoning code and my deed. Her laugh died so fast I swear you could hear her pride hit the floor. You can't be serious, she stammered, voice wobbling. I just tapped the trespass equals liability line and told her. Clock's ticking, Karen. You're already 2 hours in. That night, the tower's hum sounded downright musical. I ran the math. 3 towers, $250 an hour, 24 hours a day. By week's end, the tab would outpace her fancy SUV. I put up a sign on my fence. Unauthorized structures incur hourly rent, and set up a camera, just for good measure. Next thing I know, the whole neighborhood's buzzing. Half think I'm crazy, the other half are rooting for me. Karen tried to bluster, waving bylaws, but every time she brought up community benefit, I just asked, did I sign anything? She had nothing. By day 3, she was frantic. Calls to contractors, lawyers, city inspectors. They all said the same thing. The towers were on private land, and I could charge rent. The twist came on Friday. A call from a telecom company rep. The HOA had cut a deal with them for service coverage, but no legal right to the land. Are you the property owner? Yup. Then we owe you back pay. That's when it hit me. Karen hadn't just made a mistake. She'd built me a gold mine. The next HOA meeting turned into a circus. Folks who hadn't set foot in a community meeting in years showed up with lawn chairs and popcorn. Karen, clipboard in a death grip, tried to act like she was in charge, but the air had shifted. I strolled in, waved my rent invoice, and some guy muttered, "That's the Wi-Fi landlord." The whole place cracked up. Karen slammed her gavel, tried to shout over the laughter, but when I pulled out my deed and pointed at the property line, "See this? Your towers are here. That's my land." Tick, tick, tick. Even her husband Todd looked ready to defect. She snapped, "We'll remove the towers." But her treasurer Frank piped up, "We can't. The contract's locked for a year." Suddenly, it wasn't just my problem. It was the HOA's problem. The crowd started clapping, and Karen's empire began to crumble. She tried every trick, intimidation, sympathy, bureaucracy, but none of it worked. My favorite was the night she and Todd tried to sneak out at midnight with a toolbox, clumsy as raccoons, trying to unscrew the panels. I sent the footage to the telecom company, and the next morning, there were trucks, lawyers, and enough paperwork to sink a battleship. The telecom guys, now negotiating directly with me, offered a legit lease, monthly payments, full maintenance, even free Wi-Fi for life. But not until the HOA settled the bill. Karen, desperate, started slipping letters in mailboxes, blaming me for community infrastructure crises, trying to tack on fees to the other residents' bills. The neighbors revolted. By the end of the week, her face was photoshopped onto a Wi-Fi router in a meme that swept the block. Then came the final showdown. County officers, surveyors, Karen in her biggest sunglasses, all marching up to my gate to accuse me of unauthorized commercial activity. I just handed over my zoning permit, let the officer read it out loud. Agricultural property, leasing permitted. HOA jurisdiction not applicable. Karen's mouth fell open like a trap door. Half the neighborhood clapped when she drove off in a huff. The other half offered me pie and barbecue. The day the telecom company signed the official lease, I felt like I'd finally won. Karen tried one more desperate move, snuck onto my land with bolt cutters, caught by every camera I owned. This time, it was felony tampering. The sheriff led her away, blue lights painting her porch. Even then, she tried to save face, yelling, "You think you won?" But the only thing she'd built was a legend, one that would live on in every HOA meeting for a decade. Months rolled by. The towers hummed. The rent counter clicked up by the hour, and life settled into a peaceful rhythm. No more angry letters. No more midnight trespassers. Just the red lights blinking through the mist and the sound of neighbors laughing over backyard fences again. Word got out. The Wi-Fi landlord, they called me. Local farmers started calling for advice. The new HOA president asked me to help write up sane policies, and even the telecom company threw a barbecue in my honor. Every now and then, I'd get a cryptic letter, no return address, just a bitter line like, "You may own the land, but not the air." I'd toss them in the burned barrel, feeling nothing but a deep, satisfied peace. The field was mine again, and every hour those towers blinked was another hour Karen paid for her own arrogance. Funny how life works. Sometimes justice isn't a gavel or a headline. It's the quiet tick of a rent counter, the laughter of neighbors, and the lesson everyone remembers when they see those towers shining in the night. So what do you think? Was I right to hold my ground? Or did I go too far? Drop your thoughts down below. Let's hear your best stories about beating the odds, dealing with overreaching HOAs, or just taking back what's yours. Hit subscribe if you believe in a little justice by the hour, because out here, that's how you keep the peace.